All right, so we're going to be talking in this track about some of the logistical challenges that come about gleaning. We're going to do similar to yesterday, a quick overview of this session and overcoming some of the logistical challenges. Go ahead and take me to the first slide here. So we're going to focus mostly on distribution. This was one of the biggest logistical challenges that came out of our census project. You know, one of the things that I think is Kathy's idea to include this question about how much time you're spending on distribution. And it's data we didn't collect before, but it was a real eye-opener to me, and I'm sure many of you it wasn't because you're in it every day trying to do this distribution. But you guys are spending a tremendous amount of time on distribution. Just from the organizations that we spoke to, you know, there's over 1,200 hours every week being spent on distribution by gleaners. This graph on the bottom sort of tells the accumulated hours of 9 of you are doing less than an hour of distribution. 5 of you are doing more than 40 hours of distribution every week. And I shared this, 14% of you spend more than 40 hours a week doing distribution. That's a full-time staff person.
Can you define what distribution was for that question? Was there any definition, or was it just self?
It was self-reported, so.
Are you thinking of it as actual transportation?
That's how we asked the question, how much time do you spend distributing the produce that you glean?
Ours is 0.
Yeah, so, and some of you are 0. There was some zeros in there. Not all of you provided this data. I can't remember how many of you did. We could add up all the ends up there, but that's too much for me to do right now. There's a big range from 0 to 100 hours a week. But when we averaged it out, it's like every 500 pounds of produce gleans, it's about an hour of distribution. And we've known for a long time that distribution is a huge part of gleaning, but this was our chance to quantify that a little bit. And a lot of this distribution is being done by staff. Only 32% of you guys are using volunteers to distribute produce. That means there's a lot of staff hours and time going into distribution. Go ahead. This is another sort of graph that shows pounds distributed per hour of distribution. Some of you are distributing a lot of pounds every hour. Some of you aren't distributing very much. And then sort of the sliding on the bottom is how big the organization was. So how many pounds you glean. One of the things we wanted to understand with this is, does it go down as organizations get bigger? It seems like it does a bit, but not necessarily. Could you go back and try to present this in Slido? Does it give you that option? Maybe not. It's okay, we won't light bulb. We're just gonna raise our hands.
I can do a poll for Zoom.
For the Zoom, yeah, but not for the live. I built this with a Slido poll, but I don't think it's gonna show here. So, how many hours are you all spending doing distribution? Allison's doing 0.
Well, that's for staff, but you're counting volunteers.
Well, we ask staff. So your volunteers do all your distribution. You guys don't have to do anything. Let's actually stand up. This is how we're going to do this. Everyone stand up. Sit down if you do 0 hours of distribution.
Yourself.
Your staff. If your staff do 0 hours of distribution.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
We give it to someone right when we bring it back, and then they do distribution. So does that mean 0? We have a community partner that does our distribution for the most part.
I would say 0. We're actually going to talk about that. That's going to be another question we're going to talk about here in a second. If your organization spends 5 hours a week doing distribution, sit down.
So hours, is that, so if I have 6 volunteers that are here for 2 hours, is that 12 hours?
You can define it however you want. I'm not going to force people now to define this here. I'm just kind of curious where people land on here. How about 10? 10 hours a week. So 10 hours a week, we have quite a few. 20 hours a week? 30? 50. I know that you guys are like 100 and something. So how many, I think you guys are like 100 plus hours, right, Deb?
We do distribution not only for Glean produce, but for so many other things too. So, but yeah, we have more than half a dozen drivers. So we work full time.
Yeah, so Deb said she has half a dozen drivers that work full-time doing distribution.
In chat, you get about 20 and 5 to 10.
Okay. How many locations are you all distributing produce to? Just shout them out. Let's shout out a couple.
3,900.
33, 14, 260, 40, 52, 100. Yeah. Anyone else? So a huge variety, right? And it's a complicated thing to distribute to 240 locations. And how many of you, raise your hands if you're volunteers, do distribution? About a little bit less than half of you? No. And how many of you ask your distribution partners to help with distribution?
A little bit.
A little bit. So this could look like they come to you to pick up, they may meet you in the fields or that kind of stuff. They come to your office and get it, that kind of stuff.
Yes and no, some of both.
Yeah, some of both. So
That's why I would count like the coordination with the partners as part of distribution.
oh, I would too. I definitely think that you should. I think the question we really need to be thinking about as organizations is how much time does it take us to distribute the produce of our staff time? It's not necessarily us driving the trucks, right? It's getting the staff partners to our sites, all of this. It is incredibly logistically challenging to distribute thousands of pounds of produce every week, especially if you don't have storage or vehicles or all the rest of that. Let's go to a next slide. So, there's a ton of distribution constraints. This came up a lot in the surveys. We talked about this earlier, but the increase of cold storage has really, really helped. Do most of you have cold storage? Who doesn't have cold storage access here?
I mean, not directly, our food bank, that's why we take it there.
Take it
As
directly
in,
there, right?
We visited, have no location.
Yeah, but even still with this dramatic increase, like over a fifth of the programs still reporting storage constraints. This could be you just don't have enough cold storage, or you just don't have a place to put all the produce. Yeah. And transportation constraints were also big. Almost a quarter of you still struggle to have the right vehicles to distribute produce. Or the staffing. There's all sort of these sort of distribution pieces that constrain our ability to distribute. Go ahead and take me to the next slide, Lisa. So we broke down distribution into 3 rough categories. I know that some of you are going to be like, well, I don't really fit in any of that. But we just wanted some ways to sort of start to think about distribution. And the other thing I would say is that most of you don't do just one of these. It's a hybrid. But we started to define distribution like this hub and spoke model. So this is this idea that you bring everything back somewhere, and then you distribute it from there. There's some advantages to this. It allows you to distribute a variety of produce. So if people don't just get apricots one day and oranges the next, but usually when you're doing this distribution model, it's all coming back, it's getting sorted into different varieties and amounts for wherever the organization can take it. The other sort of distribution model is this model where you're distributing directly to community organizations. This is where it leaves the field and goes straight to a food bank or a food pantry. It never comes back to a central location for you. And then lastly, just distribution directly to recipients. This was surprising to me how many of you do directly distribute. It's like 78% of respondents that they directly distribute in some way. It doesn't mean that all your produce is being directly distributed. It means that you're doing some of that. So raise your hands, how many of you directly distribute to your clients? Oh, just 2 of you in this room. So all the outliers are in this room.
Not only.
Yeah.
Well,
that includes also allowing the volunteers to take some home themselves. So that's part of that.
It's actually not in that data. That volunteer, you know, many of you do allow volunteers to take home produce themselves, but this is people who have some sort of direct distribution. Yeah, no, or like a produce market, produce stand. You know, many of you are affiliated with food banks or things like that and food pantries, and so that's where the direct distribution comes in too. That really does push this number up. So how are you all doing distribution? Do you feel like these two categories match? Do you feel like you fit more into one or the other? Let's chat about that for a second. Maybe let them pull up this other map.
Shawn, do you know can you tell us what the percentage of the top two categories is?
It's about 50-50. It's
Okay.
almost evenly split, with the majority of folks doing something of both. You know, this data actually all comes from interview data, so this wasn't like a click a box.
Right.
You know, so we transcribed all the interviews with you all, and then we read them all after having interviewed you all, and we said, okay, like how do we feel like this person distributes? What do we know about it? And so, but there was not one that stood out above the other.
I don't think I understand the difference between one and two, right? Like, technically, aren't we all the, like, hub? We aggregate the produce we glean and then we distribute.
You guys are definitely a hub.
Is that what everybody's doing?
No, a lot of people are taking produce directly. So I go out and pick cucumbers, I'll just distribute cucumbers today.
But don't you still, like, have to hold it somewhere?
A lot of people don't. You know, Cross Ministries, for example, never holds produce. Someone comes to the field and picks it up from them. They have a food pantry, so a little bit goes to their food pantry, but anything they're distributing does not go to their central location. They're doing 500,000 pounds of produce a year that goes away.
Number two is that there's not a central location.
There's not a central location, and I'd say the other real big difference is you're distributing one crop, usually, or one glean. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we do a mix at Food Forward. Our wholesale produce that we're recovering, which is like a staff run program.
Can we give you that so the Zoom people so I don't have to keep repeating everything?
At Food Forward, we do a mix. We have a staff run program where we recover wholesale produce from the LA wholesale market, and some of that, most of it is going back to our warehouse, and a lot of it's going out same day. But then our volunteer run programs, our farmers market recovery, and backyard harvest, we have our community organizations come directly to market to pick up at the end of the week. We just like load up their cars, and then after harvest, it's a mix of an organization coming to the harvest site or volunteers putting it in their cars and dropping off to the organization.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share a little bit about how they're doing distribution and how they feel like it fit in?
We do a hub, so we bring everything
Is
back.
that Mike?
We do a hub, so we bring everything back to our warehouse, and it all gets sorted. And then all the pantries come and pick up from us, and then we have someone who comes and picks up for senior citizens and does that distribution. So it's pretty neat and clean.
Yeah. Do you find any disadvantages with that?
No, actually, we love it. We love it because our data, we can keep our data close, because to me, when they distribute like directly for us, distribute directly, oftentimes the numbers don't get caught. And I'm really particular in making sure that we have accurate poundage that's coming in, because that's what the USDA requires for our grant. And that we know what senior citizens, how much food they're getting, what Meals on Wheels are getting, you know, so it all comes to us. I don't find a disadvantage in it, but I've not experienced, well, I have. In the first year, we distributed, and it was a nightmare. It was just a nightmare. It was expensive, you know, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's great that they come to you. So actually, one of the things that we've made a recommendation in the census is we need to have more honest conversations with our distribution partners about the cost for us to distribute to them, and asking them how they might be able to help us with that.
Right.
So. Deb, behind you will take it.
So, I'm a Boston area leader, so, yeah, we have all of our, organizations that we, we have folks who, we deliver to and folks who pick up, mostly deliveries, however, so each day, the whole week there's a schedule, for the whole season there's a schedule, which aligns with the distribution partners, distributions, and, we'll send out an availability list a couple days before the distribution, based on what we have in inventory, because we do bring everything back to our main hub, and they'll select what they want, and what they select, the amount is based on, we do like a membership level, of like how many cases, like if they're anywhere from like 4 to 6 cases a week to like 4 to 6 pallets a week. And they'll select based on that.
And you guys charge, right?
Yes. So the membership level, based on your membership level, there's a small charge that helps offset. Very, very little. I mean, it doesn't at all get close to covering the cost. It's like a couple cents per pound it works out to. But yeah, it also makes people feel like they have a little bit of a stake in the game, and they're more realistic about what their needs are, et cetera, et cetera.
Does anyone else charge for distribution? Concrete Jungle does?
We don't charge, they give a suggested donation based on their size, based on their size organization.
They give a suggested donation based on size?
Yep.
Anyone else want to share anything about the distribution or anything that stands out? Kathy?
I am a volunteer with Portland Fruit Tree Project and backyard gleaning organization, and I am distribution. So whenever the local community-based organizations don't pick up, I do a weekly run once a week in the back of my Subaru. And so that's, what a lot of gleaning organizations look like. Some volunteer with their car driving produce to a designated drop-off spot. So I didn't want to lose the vision for the small operations. I mean, it works. It works. We're opening a new fruit fridge, and we're proud of that effort.
And that's the main volunteer role you do there, right?
Yes, that's all I do.
A couple from Zoom.
Okay.
Cross does bring some back to our base location. We have a cooler system, but most goes directly out. And then Farm Fresh Rhode Island said staying here. We try our best to distribute everything on the day of the glean, but we'll take some back to the cooler if needed. And then Anna from Healthy Roots Collaborative in Vermont says we also do a mix, depends how busy we are. And then Allie from Farm Fresh Rhode Island said that we also started implementing a service or freight fee for partners at a per pound fee. Most are around 30 cents a pound, but agencies opt into it each year and let us know what they can afford.
Awesome. So, it's varied, and most of you probably have a preferred distribution method. But in this imperfect world of gleaning, which is always full of surprises, it doesn't always work out that way. So that's also why it was hard to say like what percentage does what, because everyone sort of falls into, occasionally does all of this. But sort of understanding where people were leaning towards, and then each of you find what works best for you, and there's different advantages to all of these. So go ahead and take me to the next slide. Maybe click again. Let's see if it shows me a note. Oh, we already talked about this, so it's okay. We can keep going. Go ahead. Slide here. So now let's spend some time with, we've got about 15 minutes left. I believe this is my last question on here. What are the challenges you all are facing with distribution? What's the hardest part of this for you? Right back there.
operating hours.
Talk more about that, I mean, I think people know.
So we're in Portland and we rescue prepared food and a lot of event venues, things like that. So like after a sports game or the morning after a sports game, and we have bagels in Portland and things like that. And we try to be equitable in our distribution and share the love throughout sites. But frankly, some are just available more to receive food than others. And it can be difficult to keep it equitable when, you know, you have a place that's open for 2-hour windows Monday and Wednesday, and another one's 24/7. So they're obviously getting a lot more of the food that we have available.
Yeah, you know, I think that's one reason you see a lot more, you start to see people move to a central distribution model. I remember when I first started gleaning, it was like apricot season, you know, and we would glean in the evenings. You know, it was an all-volunteer organization at that time, and we'd go out and pick apricots at like 6 p.m. And then, what are you going to do with apricots at 8 p.m. at night? There was nowhere to take them, and they would end up in my kitchen counter and in the back seat of my car. And like apricots are very messy, so you know, my partner was real stoked.
Our spouses.
Yeah. You cannot bring another crate of apricots into this house. You know?
Next year where it's like just all of our spouses.
Talking about how.
My spouse is threatening to come some year.
Spouse support groups, that's what the competition is for folks to do.
Yeah, but no, it's a huge problem, and you know, so much of gleaning happens on, you know, evenings and weekends and things like that. When it, you know, honestly, when we think about logistics in general, that timing piece is so hard because, you know, it's like, when do farmers want you on the farm? When do volunteers want to be on the farm? And when can you distribute what came off of the farm? And lining those three up is usually almost impossible, so.
Another one, speaking of messy, is a lot of people don't necessarily want fresh produce, or they don't want like some of the quality of the fruit that we've gleaned. Even our local CSA, I'm pretty sure, like, was putting out our late season, very beat up, yet sweet grapefruit. I think there's just, or we'll have people who are like, I want to put together a food box that's like really identical and standardized, and these like different size, like fruits and vegetables don't fit in that. So I'm interested to see how other people have dealt with that.
Any advice? Oh, listen, said education for the folks on the, you want to add more to that when I stand here and hold?
Sure. I guess we've sort of gotten to where we've divided up our recipient sites. We have a lot of meal sites, so that really helps. So having diversity of kinds of sites, and we know which individual chefs and partners can use more imperfect stuff. We sort of have two grades. We have regular grade and use soon grade, which just means to us like it's going to a chef site, and so that imperfect stuff that's totally fine, but is a little bit ugly, we're that way.
We actually, there's a whole little subsection of the census about B-grade produce. And yeah, that was a common concern that came up across the board, is what do we do with this stuff that's imperfect? How many of you work with kitchen sites as well as like food pantry sites? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's having that diversity of partners is so critical.
From Zoom.
Yep.
Allie from Farm Fresh Rhode Island says equitable distribution of produce to all of our agency partners. We struggle since it's only two of us and don't have capacity to deliver to the entire state. We tend to repeat agencies closer to our hub than others only get a handful of deliveries a year.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's the places that are close and open the most that are going to get the most of the produce. I don't know if I throw this, it's even a big loud noise.
So we are pretty unique in the fact that we distribute almost exclusively to one distribution organization. We don't do any personal distribution ourselves. And there's a couple things that are great about that. There's a couple things that aren't so great about that.
You want to share with us?
Yeah, I'd love to, actually. So the wonderful things about that is that we don't really have to worry about getting it, right? There's a place that we bring it to, and they specifically are an organization that is Catholic Charities. They have a Food for All program in our Spokane area, and what they do is they're the ones that interface with all of the food banks, and all the food pantries, and they check with them and say, hey, we just got a whole bunch of apples. Where do you need them? Like, who needs these things? And they kind of distribute based on as equitable as they can do from what they know is available, what places have. The only problem with this for us is, while it does release me from doing a lot of that work, it also means that I don't have a lot of data on what demographic those things are going to. I can only rely on the limited amounts of data that I can get from Catholic Charities in terms of what they're able to do, especially considering that it's all over the county, and because of that, every single site has different demographics, but I can't, I'd have to go to every single site that they serve, and I don't know exactly what percentage of our stuff goes to those sites, things like that, so I can't give good numbers or grants, at least, of what's our demographic that we serve. I can say this is the general demographic of food insecure people in our area, but I can't say specific ethnic demographics or things like that. So that's something that I'm trying to figure out how to maybe improve in terms of data gathering. But that's how we distribute. So.
Thanks. Does anyone in this group target specific populations for that distribution? You know, we get some targeting that happens. Allison, who do you guys target?
Breaking it for me. I don't know. Oh, fine. Yeah, well, we just try to diversify our partners. Recently, we've added a veteran center and some refugee groups that, we have a waiting list, but sometimes we're prioritizing additional, new partners in that way and thinking about the diversity of our city organizations.
Thanks.
I just have a question. Is anyone operating a shared fridge model? Has anyone gone in on a grant with other organizations to have a shared fridge space where, in a specific area that multiple organizations could use, you could drop off, and then whoever is receiving that produce could come pick up in that location?
Kathy, that's Portland Fruit Tree's model, right? It's shared fridge where organizations come and pick up.
Yeah, so Portland Fruit Tree's model is they have an open fruit fridge in the parking lot, basically behind their facility, and organizations can come pick up because there's no lock on the door. But Portland Fruit Tree struggles with a lot of the same issues that your organization struggles with in terms of wanting to provide equitable distribution, but the small community-based organizations don't always have the resources to come pick it up. So then the struggle is, what do you do? Because the clock's ticking, even though it's cold storage, they want to get that fruit out. And thus, I'm the kind of the sweeper. Whatever doesn't get distributed directly to the organizations coming to pick it up, I pick it up once a week and take it to a large food pantry that can get it out within next day or next 2 days. So that's the logistical challenge with that.
And then do you guys run a sort of open fridge too? I know you guys used to, at your old office, just line up produce and let people come and pick it up.
Yeah, no, we're not, we now have a specific day and program where we redistribute. So we had to stop that because people would come to the door at all times of the day.
Yeah. Does anyone else run a community fridge? This was a common way of distribution we found.
We don't run a community fridge.
Karen, do you have the mic?
We don't run a community fridge, but if we get zucchini and cucumbers when they come in, it's huge. We're bringing trailer loads of them in. So we set up a community giveaway through Facebook and through our local community websites. And we generally get about 150 cars that come through and we distribute the extras to their cars. So that's really the only person-to-person thing we do, and it's generally just for excess.
That's a great way to move that excess, though.
Pardon me,
It's a great way to move that excess,
Yeah,
is to like, just reach out.
because I don't want it in the compost.
So in San Diego, we're looking at potentially procuring some solar, 100% solar containers, and placing them around the county so that organizations can show the space. That there's many organizations, just like you guys, that don't have any location to bring food to. So that's something that's being looked at right now.
Thank you.
Farm Fresh Rhode Island is hoping to start one.
We had one when I was at Green Urban Lunchbox that was at our office, so the community fridge too, that we just, both community, some of our community partners stocked it with other stuff, and then we stocked it with produce off our farms and gleaned produce from our gleaning program. We were they moved the homeless shelter in Salt Lake City out by our location, which was way out of all other services. One of those classic moves that happened, so we got a lot of foot traffic that would come by our location there of the unhoused population, and so we started providing that fridge there for those needs.
We don't have fridges, but we're piloting fruit stand project, funded by county council members, so we have your county council members. But it's the same idea where the stand is there for anybody, it's open to anybody can come and drop off, anybody can come and take, so it's just luck.
There's no one here from Maine, is there in the room? There's a lot of Maine organizations also use these sharing tables, where they put, a non-fridge fruit and vegetable stand at libraries a lot of times, and stock those with produce that people can give and take. We wrote about it in the 2020 census. Any last comments or questions? We got 2 minutes left. I did have one more question. Does anyone have an innovative way of doing distribution they want to share? Or did I see a hand right here? Go ahead. Doesn't have to be an innovative way. It can just be whatever.
I just wanted to plug Move for Hunger. Hi, my name is Carla from Move for Hunger, and we offer transportation support throughout the United States and Canada. I mean, just some challenges we're facing are less drivers on the road, supply chain disruptions, increased oil price, what have you. But we work really hard to provide free transportation resources for folks. If it's within a city, we have a volunteer network of moving companies who have box trucks who are able to operate within the city. But if it's a little longer run, we also are able to contract trucks. We usually work with like full truckloads, but we talk about any opportunity that y'all have or any challenges you're facing.
Yeah, we're a great resource, so I know several organizations have used them in the past, so thanks. Well, thank you guys so much. I know there's a lot of logistical challenges in gleaning. We just dove into distribution. We know that volunteer management and board management and all those other pieces are big logistical challenges that you all are facing every day. One of the things that's great about doing the census is now we have so many things we can offer trainings on. But if there's something you want to talk about in distribution or logistics that is a struggle for your organization, reach out to me or Kathy and we can put together, affinity groups to chat about it, coffee chats to share, webinars, presentations at next year's symposium, all that kind of stuff. We want to help brainstorm solutions and share ideas with you all. So thank you. And